History likes simple pictures. One arrow arcs above a Sussex hill and ends a king. The Bayeux embroidery freezes 1060, 6 into a single frame. But 19 days before Hastings, far to the north, England fought the battle that actually ended a world. On a late September morning, where a Roman road crossed the River Derwent, iron met oak, oath met ambition, and the Viking sun finally set. This is the story of how the Battle of Stamford Bridge closed the age of the longship and how that victory forced England to fight 2 wars in 3 weeks. January 1066 begins with a vacancy. Edward the Confessor dies without a son. The Witan, England's council of great men, proclaims Harold Godwinson king, capable, present, powerful. In a kingdom where order depends on who can actually make shires move, Harold is a practical answer to an existential problem. Across the Channel, William, Duke of Normandy, hears opportunity. He believes Edward promised him the succession, that Harold swore an oath to support it, and that oaths bind men and nations. William begins to build a legal case and a fleet. Far to the north, in a harder climate with harder memories, Harald Sigurdsson, Harald Hardrada, King of Norway, lifts his eyes to England. He is not a summer pirate. He is a professional of war, a former Varangian Guard officer who has fought for Byzantine emperors in Sicily and the Balkans, marched along the Dnieper and stacked treasure until it bent the floorboards of ships. He sees not a raid but an inheritance, the echo of Knut's North Sea Empire, when one hand held Denmark, Norway, and England together. Into this triangle walks a fourth figure whose shadow is long. Tostig Godwinson, Harold's younger brother, deposed as Earl of Northumbria in 1065 after ruling with a heavier hand than his earldom would bear. Exiled, furious, and unwilling to return as a penitent, Tostig seeks restoration by aligning with any power that will carry him back to his seat. His knowledge of northern politics, who hates whom and why, will matter more than his spear. England in early 1066 is therefore a chessboard with 3 queens and a rogue bishop. Harold crowned by custom and capacity. William building a just, so legal bridge to invasion. Hardrada reaching from the north with prestige sharp as steel, and Tostig lighting signal fires in the Danelaw's old embers. Hardrada's fleet, hundreds of longships, slides along the North Sea, rounds into the Humber, and noses up the Ouse toward York. They do not throw anchors wherever the mud happens to hold. They choose Riccall, a deep-water anchorage with a quick road to York and a sheltered line back to the sea. Conquest is a chain, and supply is its strongest link. Riccall is the insurance policy protecting ships, stores, and any retreat they might one day need. From Riccall, Hardrada, and Tostig march on York, the North's great prize. The English Earls Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria race to interpose. They choose the ground at Fulford, south of York, on the 20th of September. It is the kind of place that looks fair until you stamp your foot. River to one side, marsh and ditches underfoot, a slope that steals balance just when you need it most. The English levies brave, local, less drilled push Hardrada's centre. The Norwegians, veterans, hold their nerve. Then the trap closes. Strong flanks swing and bite. The English line kinks and comes apart. York reads the field and opens its gates. A hostage exchange is set to formalise terms. Pragmatically, both sides choose a central, accessible venue, a crossing east of York where a Roman road meets the River Derwent Stamford Bridge. Diplomacy, convenience, familiarity, all the right reasons, and exactly the wrong ones if an enemy refuses to follow the script. Fulford is the undertold prologue. It opens the city. It convinces Hardrada he has time. It fixes a day and place for negotiation. It also leaves a powerful detail. Almost no dramatization honors. Hardrada leaves a substantial force at Riccall to guard the fleet. That prudence will later become Orre's storm, the last convulsion of a dying campaign. In the south, Harold Godwinson has spent the summer staring at the Channel, burning money and goodwill to keep a levy army standing. Medieval armies are made of grain and patience. Fodder must be bought, fields must be harvested, men must eventually go home. As the weeks pass without a Norman sail on the horizon, portions of the fyrd return to their farms. Harold keeps his housecarls, the professional heavy infantry whose two-handed axes have broken Viking and Welsh lines for a generation, and a cadre of tested Shire troops. Then the northern news arrives. Fulford lost, York yielded. Harold chooses action, not anticipation. He pulls his professionals and the best of the levies and drives them north. Numbers in chronicles soften when read indoors. Outside, they blister feet. Almost 200 miles in 4 to 6 days, London to the Lincoln Road. Then on to Tadcaster. Horses sweat, men bleed in their boots. Officers measure their king by whether he rides where they can see him. He does. This march is Harold's first victory. It cuts the Norwegian campaign's timeline in half. It refuses Hardrada the week of consolidation he believes he has earned. It weaponizes surprise at a strategic level. By the night of the 24th of September, the English are at Tadcaster, 10 miles from York. Before dawn, scouts bring the words that turn speed into shock. The Norwegians will be at Stamford Bridge that morning for a hostage parley. Unarmoured and unworried, there is no time to sleep the stiffness out of legs. Harold orders the line forward. Long before that September day, Stamford Bridge was important. Roman engineers had charted the approaches and set a road that ran straight to the Derwent here. The site is central, reachable, and narrow, perfect for ceremonial exchange and, if you arrive with hostile intent, perfect for ambush. It is warm for late September. Mail is punishing in heat. Many Norwegian warriors leave their heavy hauberks by the ships or on the grass. Others fan out to forage. What they expect is a pageant. What comes instead is a line of English shields glittering on the western rise. The Norwegian response is the response of professionals who still believe fortune will sort itself out if they buy a little time. Some rush to form on the western bank to hold the approaches. Others sprint the bridge to the eastern bank, where firmer ground and a rise promise a better shield wall. Between them stands the bridge, a wooden throat where only a handful can pass abreast. Tradition, saga, and chronicle speaks of one great axeman who holds the span. The English challenge him man by man and fail man by man. Arrows glance, charges splinter. At last, an English soldier slips beneath the planking and thrusts upward with a spear, ending the miracle by changing the angle of attack. Whether embroidered or exact, the tale carries a tactical truth. Minutes at a choke point are worth companies on open ground. On the western bank, the English housecarls arrive in wedge formation, shields overlapping, two-handed axes riding high. Behind them come the best of the fyrd, less heavy in kit but drawn tight by obligation and the nearness of home. The bridge finally falls. The English surge across. The noise changes key. With the crossing forced, Harold Godwinson does a last practical thing. He rides ahead and calls for Tostig. "Abandon the Norwegians," he says, "and I will pardon you and restore your place." Then he sends a sentence across to Harald Hardrada. "England will grant you as much land as you are tall." In some retellings, 7 feet of earth, or a little more, given your height. It is not cruelty so much as concision. It tells everyone present in fewer than a dozen words exactly what the fight is for. Hardrada refuses. Pride holds. Habit holds. The momentum of the weak holds. The archers open the battle's main act. Volleys strip men out of lines and make gaps that must be closed at once, or terror leaks in. Then the housecarls crank their arms and let the axes fall blows that split shields, wrists, and will. The Norwegians' shield wall sways and then stiffens. It is not Fulford anymore. The English are not outflanked or sinking. The fight compresses into the brutal arithmetic of who can hold breath longer. Harald Hardrada fights in the front rank. Even if later writers made him a giant, he was large enough to dominate his space, and long enough practiced to know that leadership from the second rank rarely compels men to die well. He swings a great axe and carves a pocket around himself, buying seconds for those beside him. Then the arrow comes. Arrows in medieval battle are not plot devices. They are probability made visible. At some point, the law of large numbers and a flash of luck combine. The shaft finds his throat. A small sound may have escaped him. The larger sound is the gap his body leaves in the line. Messages rip down the wall like wind through a wheat field. The king is down. The king is down. Many armies survive the death of a commander. Fewer survive the sudden absence of what the commander means. The Norwegians do not break. Tostig fights on no pardon now. No way back over the river he crossed inside himself months ago. Within minutes, he, too, is dead. For a time, the line holds from habit alone, a fortress built of posture and muscle memory. But the English have found the rhythm of the day, and the rhythm runs their way. There is one more scene before the curtain drops, and it comes from Riccall. Eystein Orre hears the battle from a distance, a fabric of sound that anyone who has been near battle recognizes, the constant tearing of noise with peaks in it. He drives the fleet guard forward at a run. They are late because they were prudent, and prudence guarding ships, securing stores takes you away from where the legend is made. The march from Riccall to the field is a race against lungs. Men arrive and collapse. Others gulp air until vision steadies, then lift the great banner, Landøythen, land waster. They go in. For a minute, maybe two, the battle reverses. The English line buckles. The wedge drives like a nail-head hammered flat. The north of Europe makes one last credible claim on the north of England. Then physics asserts itself. Storm is energy over time, and they have spent both on the road. The wedge dulls, momentum drains, Orre falls, and the last organized hope of the invasion goes down with him. The banner dips and is swallowed by the crush. Rout is always worse than battle. The field becomes a funnel, and the funnel's throat is the bridge and the river. Men drop shields and run, others try to swim and drown in mail, going under within a spear's length of safety. English cavalry, few but energetic, are suddenly the perfect tool. Pursuit on roads, pressure on lanes, spear points in backs where armor is thinnest. The road towards Riccall glistens red. At the river and the moorings, panic rolls like surf, crews shoving hulls to water, oars biting, shouts competing with orders. Then, something unusual for the age, and entirely characteristic of Harold the Manager King, terms. Those who surrender may take ships and leave. Across tellings, one image endures because numbers draw pictures of the 300 ships that had originally forested the river approaches and the Humber. Only a few dozen are needed to take survivors home. Sometimes the chroniclers say 24, sometimes about 2 dozen. Dispute the figure if you must, you cannot dispute the effect. A river mouth that had looked like a forest of masts now shows gaps like missing teeth. Hardrada lies among the heaps. Tostig lies within arm's reach of men who had bet their lives on him. The northern nobility that had looked to Norway for a fix is cut down or cut out of the political conversation for a generation. A leadership class ends here: Norwegian captains, Danish veterans, Northumbrian lords, and a different kind of politics begins. First, Stamford Bridge marks the effective end of the Viking Age in Western Europe, not because raiding ceases, raids never quite cease, but because the credibility of conquest evaporates. You cannot easily sell the dream of a new North Sea empire after York was yielded and the army that took it died by the Derwent. Second, it is a classic of speed-beating mass. Hardrada owned the checklist. Veterans from dozens of campaigns, a cosmopolitan coalition, a one battle at Fulford, a friendly, or at least frightened, major city, a secure anchorage at Riccall. Harold had housecarls, tired levies, and time used violently. He turned miles into minutes, and surprise into structure, showing that surprise is not chaos. It is a plan that arrives early. Third, it explains Hastings better than any tapestry could. 3 days after Stamford Bridge, messengers reach Harold. William has landed in the south. 19 days after the northern victory, the southern battle closes the year. If Harold had been granted 1 week of rest, if housecarls had their numbers whole, if banners did not have to be turned within hours from York to Sussex, the ridge at Senlac might have told a different story. But 1066 is a year without spare time. Fourth, it reveals the danger of convenience. Stamford Bridge was chosen for the same reasons modern planners still choose sites: centrality, approach roads, predictability. When you make war easy to arrange, you sometimes make it easy to spring. Fifth, it displays the psychology of symbols in real time. The axeman on the bridge legend or fact gave shape to minutes and courage to breath. The offer of 7 feet of earth condensed strategy and contempt into a phrase that even the terrified understood. The land waster rising and falling carried more voltage through the army than a whole sermon of encouraging words. And Hardrada's death removed more than a man. It removed a myth the Vikings had told themselves for 3 centuries, that enemies bend when longships arrive. To keep our feet on earth, consider the people who made this day. Housecarls are professional infantry, the spine of royal armies in late Anglo-Saxon England. They wear mail hauberks, carry kite shields or sturdy rounds, and fight with Danish axes, two-handed, with blades that can bite through shield rims and helm edges. They train to stand together, to push, and to deliver killing blows when small gaps appear. The fyrd are shire levies free men called up under royal command. Equipment varies. Some have mail, many have gambesons, padded coats, spear, sea-axe, a long knife, and small shields. Their strength is numbers and purpose. Their weakness is time and cohesion. Under steady leadership they stand. Under sudden fear they unravel. That Harold kept a large body of them marching, and then marching faster, is itself testament to discipline. The Norwegian coalition is veteran and mixed. Norwegians, Orkney men, adventurers from the Isles, some Danes still loyal to Hardrada's prestige. Many have round shields, mail shirts, swords and axes. Some carry bows. The crucial divide at Stamford Bridge is not quality but readiness. Expecting a parley, a significant fraction abandon hauberks and helmets for comfort. A hot morning does not feel like a tactical choice until it island and the ground. The Derwent Valley constricts at the bridge, with rising ground eastward. The Roman road brings predictability. Close your eyes and you can lay a battle on it. Hold west bank. Buy time on the bridge. Build a shield wall east. Hope reinforcements Orre's men arrive before the English force a crossing. It would have worked against a slower king. Weaponry is not ornament here. Arrows are not scene dressing. They are the opener that pulls defenders' heads down and empties intervals in the line. Axes are not theatre props. They are the instrument that turns those intervals into fatal openings. Spears remain the safest, simplest, best friend of a man in a crowd. Long reach, cheap to make, lethal to the unhelmed. In the press at the bridge, a spear thrust from below makes legendary sense. Angle kills where brute force cannot. In Norway, the shock is strategic. Hardrada was more than a king, he was a network of loyalties. The dead at Stamford Bridge include earls, captains, and a layer of veteran fighters who glue armies together when plans go crooked. That layer cannot be remade quickly. Succession tumbles onto Magnus, and the kingdom's gaze turns more inward. Dreamers of greater seas hush for a while. In England, the lesson is double-edged. Stamford Bridge shows a centralized royal army housecarls at its core, can move quickly and hit decisively. But it also shows that even an excellent army can be overstretched by serial invasions. Harold's mercy at Riccall is part policy, part necessity. Don't create martyrs in Norway. Don't waste time on slaughter when William is already ashore. In the north of England, the political map redraws itself. Northumbrian nobles who stood with Tostig's hopefulness or Hardrada's prestige have their names etched into stone or simply disappear from rolls. The survivors' houses recalibrate under the new Norman order after October. Some bend and are preserved, others break and are replaced. For military thinkers, the case study is evergreen, a forced march that worked, the exploitation of a predictable meeting place, the use of choke points, the cost of overconfidence after an initial victory, Fulford, and a city's surrender, York. The attempt to fight a second major battle on exhausted feet, Hastings. Every staff ride on operational art hides a little of 1066 inside it. We remember Hastings because it has pictures. We remember Stamford Bridge because it has stories. The axeman holding the span for an hour, the offer of 7 feet of earth, the banner rising and falling like a heartbeat visible at a distance, the 24 ships more or fewer pulling away from a river suddenly wide. Walk the Derwent on a clear day, and the logic is still there for anyone who cares to look. The alignment of the old road, the approaches that squeeze, the kind of ground where a horseman suddenly becomes useful. Quiet water keeps secrets, but it also keeps shape. It tells you why men chose a place before it tells you what they did there. A last note for those who look for providence in history. You can call the sequence of 1066 the judgment of God, or the verdict of logistics. The men in those lines had room for both interpretations. Either way, the effect is the same. An age ends at a bridge, a new order begins at a ridge. Hold the year in both hands. In your right, the Sussex Downs and a tapestry's arrow. In your left, a wooden bridge over a Yorkshire river and a king's lifeblood mixing with English mud. If Fulford kicked the door and Stamford Bridge slammed it, then Hastings rebuilt the house beyond. Stamford Bridge proves the English could defeat anyone. Hastings proves no one can defeat everyone. Hundreds of ships came to Yorkshire. A handful sailed home. That is the shape of an ending.